Hi everybody, I'm Ryan, and today we're going to talk about how to sideboard with Dimir Murktide in Modern against the 10 most popular decks. If you're looking for like an overall look at the deck and strategy and all the, how to play it, all that stuff, I did a deck tech on it that was posted at some point last week. You should check that out. This is just going to focus on the sideboard, so let's jump into it. All hail the Psychic Frog. 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 So this is Dimir Murktide. As far as the sideboard goes, consigned to memory, very good against Storm and Eldrazi and really anything with colorless or triggered abilities that actually matter. Stern Scolding, good against the creatures with toughness 2 or less out of like energy and even the mirror match. Harbinger of the Seas is very good against the decks that rely on their lands to do the powerful things from their decks, like Amulet Titan or Eldrazi Ramp or things like that. Jace the Mind Sculptor is just like a solid mid-range card. If the game is going to go long, can give you some crazy card advantage. Subtlety is good against decks that have creatures or planeswalkers that you need to answer and maybe need to answer at instant speed. The Meat Massacre is our board wipe against the aggressive decks. Nihil Spellbomb is our graveyard hate. That being said, the most popular deck in Modern is Boros Energy. Against Boros Energy, we're bringing in the Stern Scoldings to be able to counter their powerful creatures. We're bringing in Meat Massacre to be able to wipe their board. And Subtlety is really good, especially against a Flage that is escaping, which is pretty cool. We're going to be bringing out Force of Negation. It just doesn't really do anything against the deck. It's like fine against Fable and Goblin Bombardment, but 2-for-1ing ourselves is kind of a death knell. And then we're going to be cutting down on Kaido just because it's really easy for them to pressure these planeswalkers. There's an argument for bringing in the spell bombs and taking out maybe a Sauron's Ransom and maybe a Thoughtseize or something like that. However, I think these cards are really important for trying to get ahead. And Spellbomb isn't necessarily our only answer to Flage. We can answer them in other ways. So I don't like bringing it in, but I think it's totally fine too. This is how I sideboard against Energy. The second most popular deck in Modern is Eldrazi Ramp. Against Eldrazi, we're bringing in the Consigned to Memories. We are bringing in Harbinger of the Seas because it can attack their lands. Then I'm a Spellbomb fan because if they ever Emrakul us, we are diggity dead. We're going to be taking out Dismember because it doesn't really kill anything that's relevant. Same thing with Fatal Push. Spell Snare only hits Rumble and the Talisman, which I don't think is enough to keep as a card in the deck. Or then we're going to cut Sauron's Ransom, and this is how I'm a sideboard against Eldrazi Ramp. The third most popular deck in Modern is the Mirror Match. In the mirror, like Stern Scolding. This allows us to counter Frog and Bowmaster, even Tamio, like, which are all very, very important creatures, and countering them for 1 mana is a really big deal. Spellbomb's pretty good. It keeps Psychic Frog on the ground and pressures Murktide, like being able to cast Murktide Regent. I like Jace because Jace is able to pull ahead once we have stabilized in that mirror match. I think Force of Negation is really bad because often this turns into like a mid-range fight, and we never want to 2-for-1 ourselves in mid-range fights like this. Similarly with Subtlety, like I'm not a big fan of Subtlety in fighting this battle, and I like everything else in the deck quite a bit, so we're just going to shave a Preordain, and this is how I'm going to sideboard in the mirror. The fourth most popular deck is Ruby Storm. Against Ruby Storm, I like Consign. The reason Consign is good is it can hit Ruby Medallion, which is really nice, but also can counter the Storm trigger. Now Spellbomb is also very good because it makes it hard for them to combo because of Pass and Flames. And then Subtlety can counter Ral at 0 mana, which is a big deal because fighting this deck is just about making sure they don't hit their cost reducers and their cost reducers don't stick. That being said, we aren't playing the mid-range plan, so Kaido is bad. Sauron Ransom I don't like. We have to keep in the Fatal Pushes and the Dismembers just to be able to get Ral after it's already on the board. We're going to take out the Preordains, mostly because like we need every single card in the deck to be doing something. We can't be spending mana on stuff that doesn't affect the board. And shaving on a Murktide Regent because Ruby Storm's really fast and it's kind of hard to get to that end game if we don't have the tools to get to that end game. And so that's how I'm a sideboard against Ruby Storm. The fifth most popular deck is Amulet Titan. Against Amulet Titan, Consign is good because it can hit Amulet, which is really nice, but also can counter the triggered abilities of like most things in the deck, which is also super nice. Harbinger of the Seas is great. It turns off the combo with their lands. Subtlety can slow them down because you can counter the creature. Fatal Push, frankly, doesn't kill anything consistently enough. Spell Snare is just terra bad. Orcish Bowmasters doesn't really kill anything. and it doesn't like draw cards, or the opponent's deck doesn't draw cards besides Spelunking and Explorer, so meh. So we're gonna bring out some number of Orcish Bowmasters, because at least it does something, where Spell Snare and Fatal Push actually just do nothing. In this on my sideboard against Amulet Titan. The sixth most popular deck is Belcher. And Mono Red Belcher is actually getting pretty popular alongside Blue Belcher. And you're going to sideboard slightly different against both of them. What you're going to bring in against both of them, though, is Consign. It counters Belcher, which is a really big deal. Against the red version, it counters Ruby Medallion as well. And you just straight up need to play those cards. Against the red version, actually, it counters the Storm Trigger from Storm Talon Scion as well. You got to bring out Subtlety, because it just doesn't do anything to speak of. Same thing with pushes and dismembers. They just really don't do anything. So now we're in a situation where we need to bring out too many cards, which is not the best situation. So against the red version, bringing in Harbinger is kind of cute, because you can kind of turn off some of their colors, and then we can just keep a Subtlety in. And so that's how I would sideboard against the red version of Belcher. Against the blue version, obviously Harbinger isn't as good, so unfortunately we got to keep one of the subtleties in. And then against the blue version, there are still some cards we like have to take out. Like we have to take out the Fatal Pushes and Dismembers, because they just straight up don't do anything, which means we have to bring in some other cards that are not as good, like Subtlety at least as a creature, and Jace the Mind Sculptor like actually has text, where these cards just don't. So that's how I would sideboard against the blue Belcher version. The seventh most popular deck is Domain Zoo. Against Domain Zoo, we're bringing in Meat Hook Massacre. If we can get to the mana, being able to kill the creatures with Meat Hook Massacre is pretty cute. Harbinger turns off their mana. Like their mana is very, very, very greedy. And Subtlety just to slow down their aggression. And we're going to be taking out some of these long-term cards. Like Force Negation is just bad. Kaido we kind of have to take out, because we're not going to be attacking too much until we've stabilized. And so that's how I'm a sideboard against Domain Zoo. The eighth most popular deck is It Prowess. Against the Is It Prowess deck, Stern Scolding is solid because it counters all of their creatures. Meat Hook Massacre being able to wipe their board, especially after a Quarry Steelcutter, feels really good as well. And Subtlety just being able to slow their creatures down is like a pretty big deal. That being said, I think we have to side out a Thoughtseize just because the deck is so fast, and then a Kaido. And that's how I'm going to sideboard against Is It Prowess. The ninth most popular deck is Affinity. Against Affinity, we're bringing in the Consigns. Being able to counter things here or there as they become relevant is a pretty big deal, especially being able to counter like triggered abilities like from Emery or Thought Monitor are also really solid too. Stern Scolding counters all of their creatures besides Kappa Cannoneer, which is really solid. And then I like Subtlety as well. It doesn't hit a lot of the relevant things in their deck, and it hits very few of the relevant things. Spell Snare does straight up nothing against them. And we're going to shave on Force Negation. There's not a lot of non-creature spells we're willing to 2-for-1 ourselves over, but they exist, like fighting over Metallic Rebuke or Thoughtcast or something. So I'm a sideboard against Affinity. Then the 10th most popular deck is the Basking Brood Scale deck. Against Basking Brood Scale, we're bringing in Consigns. It counters about half of the cards in the 75, which is sweet. Stern Scolding also counters pretty much everything except for Emrakul. Subtlety, being able to slow their creatures down so there's less of a chance of comboing, is really solid. And I'm always a fan of Harbinger and taking out Ursa Sagas. That being said, we're going to be taking out a lot of the slower stuff. Not a big fan of forcing counter. Like a lot of things we're really afraid of are instant speed, like Kozilek's Command and whatever. So taking those out is really solid. Also, Smell Snare only counters Basking Brood Scale, so I think we have to take that out as well. And Orcish Bowmasters doesn't really kill anything, and also they're not drawing cards. So we're going to shave on Orcish Bowmasters, and the Sama sideboard against Brood Scale. But there you have how to sideboard against the top 10 most popular decks in Modern with Dimir Murktide. If you liked this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.